God doesn't exist because theists and Muslims use God of the gaps fallacy to justify God's existence. This is a claim that was made by popular atheist science journalist Neil deGrasse Tyson.
What was around before the Big Bang? If you lean religious, you will see these mysteries as where God might reside, God of the gaps. If that's how you define God, God to you is an ever receding pocket of scientific ignorance.
That's sad.
However, is this claim true? In this video, I actually investigate his claim to see if there is any truth to it or not. So, is Islam a false religion as Neil deGrasse Tyson claims, or is it just blatantly wrong? If you want to know, then please watch this video until the very end. So, let's get started. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Islamic podcast. So, recently I actually watched a video by Neil deGrasse Tyson. According to him, he cannot take God's existence seriously.
But why?
Let's take a look and let's see what he says, and then I'll make my response.
Mommy, where's heaven? Oh, it's up there. No, it's not, because I have a telescope. It's not up there, Mommy.
We don't believe that heaven is like some kind of like physical place you can go to, right? Or you can look up to, right? Yeah, when we say heaven is in the sky, that doesn't mean you can literally see it or you can like touch it or whatever, because heaven is obvious a metaphysical concept. It's not a physical concept. So there's a difference between something that's metaphysical and the physical. And if you can't even understand that distinction, then I'm sorry, like you're not qualified to even discuss things with like a theist, because this is very distasteful. He's basically doing a straw man argument fallacy. So a lot of people will say, oh, he's just making jokes. You guys are like always trying to stifle on free speech. And no, this is not a matter of free speech. This just wasn't a very good joke. I mean, jokes are supposed to be funny.
There are other questions that are just simply yet to be answered. So one of them is what was around before the Big Bang? And we don't yet know how Earth went from organic molecules to self-replicating life.
Right.
All right. Earth figured it out. We haven't figured that out yet. So if you lean religious, you will see these mysteries as where God might reside. But philosophers got wise to it, and they came up with the term for it, God of the gaps.
God of the gaps.
So it's the urge to declare that if there's something you don't understand about the universe, that God must be there with the puppet string.
What he's describing is actually a logical fallacy. So basically the fallacy goes something like, we don't know how X happened based on scientific theories. We know anything that doesn't have an explanation is done by God. Therefore, X was done by God. But it's a fallacy because just because we don't know doesn't mean it was done by God. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say that no theist in the world, Muslim or Christian, ever made this argument. I'm sure there are people out there who actually makes this argument, but if you're talking about the actual theological position, theists or Islamic scholars or Christians, I don't think they make this argument. So this is just, again, here he's committing a strawman argument fallacy. He's just misrepresenting what theists believe. And this is actually goes against one of our core Aqidah belief, which is the belief in Qadar. The idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who causes everything. Everything that happens because of the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it's something that you can explain scientifically, it's being done by God. If you cannot explain scientifically, it's still being done by God. We believe that everything is being done by God.
There are people who, they're not falling for the God of the gaps.
Right.
To them, God is everything.
Yeah.
Gaps and no gaps.
Right.
Okay? So that God, that's a different God. Okay? That's not just a God who's lurks.
Right.
Because science is an ever-moving frontier. Right. One day we'll figure out dark matter, dark energy, and what happens to your God if that's what it was. All right?
Right. Okay.
So the people who say God is everything, that resembles greatly Spinoza's God. He suggested that the very order of the universe, the operations of nature, everything we see, feel, and experience is God.
Okay.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. So basically what he's describing is not Spinoza's God, right? This concept of God is known as non-dualism. And this concept actually comes from Hinduism. In Hinduism, there's like these two philosophies. One is dualism and other is non-dualism. So dualism is the idea that God is separate from his creation. And non-dualism is the idea that God and creation are one and the same. So everything is God, right? And this is the idea that was proposed by a Hindu philosopher, Adi Shankaracharya.
Jiva Jagat Ishvara. Ishvara means God. Jiva means sentient beings like us. Jagat is this material universe. God, sentient beings, material universe. This triangle, those who consider this triangle to be real and distinct, God is different from us, we are different from each other, and the world, material world, is an independent, different reality. Those who consider these differences to be real, these entities to be real and different from each other, they are dualistic. There is only one school which says these are not different. There is only one reality. All differences are illusory. That is Shankara.
Now, he did invent this idea. This idea existed before him, but he kind of popularized this idea. So this is an idea in Hinduism that always existed. So this is not something that Spinoza came up with. This is an idea that already exists. Because these people are materialists, when they're looking for God, when they're trying to understand God, they just attribute the nature of God to nature. But obviously, that's not what we believe in. Our position is basically that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is separate from His creation. For example, imagine you're like a carpenter and you have built a box. Will the properties of the box be the same as you as a carpenter? No, of course not, right? Same thing with God. Like if God creates something, obviously his nature will be different and unique than the thing he created. We don't believe that God is anything like his creation because logically it doesn't make sense. It doesn't logically follow, because of the analogy I just used. So God has to be different than his creation. He cannot be the same. Also, it leads to logical contradiction. God created nature and maintains it. Then does it mean that he created himself and maintains himself? But that's a contradiction because God is eternal and he's supposed to be all powerful. And both of these attributes gets nullified because he cannot be eternal because he was created as God created nature. And he cannot be all powerful because he's exerting power over himself. So he's both all powerful and not all powerful at the same time. So it's a contradiction, right? So these kind of problems, you run into these kind of logical problems like this. This is why it's not possible, right? God cannot be part of his creation because he has to have power over creation. He cannot do that if he's himself is part of creation. And this is why this position is illogical. And this is why we don't hold to this position. Our position is that God is separate from his creation. This is why it's very important to study Aqidah or study our main creedal position, because if you're like a Muslim and you're doing like apologetics, and you don't understand these things, you will not be able to argue against people like Neil deGrasse Tyson or like it's kind of like other sophisticated atheist philosopher or like scientist, because they will have objections in regards to our Aqidah, and if you don't understand or don't know much about our Aqidah, you will not be able to respond to them, or properly at least. So yeah, basically he again kind of like strawman's Islamic position. This is not the position we take. God is somehow part of creation. We don't believe that. But yeah, I guess that's about it. Thank you guys for watching. Again, if you guys like the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And please do subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot. So yeah, I guess that's about it. Inshallah, see you next time. Inshallah, Assalamu alaikum.